Edible Spirit Hour.
Greetings and salutations, dear ones, most delicious spirits. Welcome to this, your weekly dose of divine deliciousness, the Edible Spirit Hour. This is a show that's dedicated to healing and healers, of which you are most likely both. But, stuff can get pretty deep on this show, pretty deep in our hearts and souls and in our lives. So we aim to offer you spirituality that is digestible here at Edible Spirit, and on the hour that is also fun and grounded and rooted in not necessarily the senses, but at least in some sensuousness. So we create the space for you to join, feel, heal, and synchronize with yourself and with those larger forces of the universe, and most importantly, with the community and the collective that has risen up through this bizarre work, which is Edible Spirit, which is the practice that your host, Michael Dimitrich, collaborates with in private sessions and classes and live events like this. So Edible Spirit is the collective that we work with and for, of which you are a part, because we are very much here for you. We might do some of this magical business were you not here, but the humanity and the connection of it all is what really gets us going. So welcome. If you've been watching the show, you know that we always start with what we like to call the F Me update. Let's see, is anybody see? Hi, Ichigo. Hey, Flaxy Poo. Thank you for the Spider-Man love shirt. Okay, so welcome everyone. Oh, and just as I'm checking the YouTube, just so you all know, if you want to get a reading from Edible Spirit, or if you have a question for our guest this evening, and I can't wait to see the questions that you have for our guest this evening, join us in the Zoom room. You can go to ediblespirit.com and scroll down to the moment about the hour and just click the Zoom link there to send you to the Zoom room, or you can find it on Instagram at Edible Spirit in our link tree in the bio. That has a button as well that will send you right into the Zoom room where you sit tight until we call you in to hear your question and give you a reading or offer some insight or whatever it is that pleases you, because we are here for you. So have fun. Join us, okay? Hi, Winter. So as I said, as you know, we start with the F Me update, which is a combination of the astrological and the gastronomical. It's a little update of what's going on in the skies, what's going on in the stars, and what's going on in our kitchen, right? All the way out there, all the way down here. All the way in here, all the way out there. Is there an in? Is there an out? Is there an up? Is there a down? Have a feeling we're going to encounter some questions about sensuality and directionality with our amazing guest tonight, Tiana Garoogian, who's with us, incredible practitioner and healer and just being. So yeah, get your questions ready. You couldn't possibly know what questions you have to ask, but if you do, maybe they're coming through. And if they are, jot them down. Without further ado, let's jump into this F Me update. Big stuff happening and new stuff. Thank you. Main thing we want to bring you from the ethers, from all the work we've done with clients this week and from all the work we've done in teaching this week, conversations, there seems to be this interesting phenomena that is connected to the moment and connected to the astrology, but it's what I've heard the most this week. We seem to be in this moment where we're being tasked to be someone new after letting go of an old mask. So a personality or some framework that we used to wear that felt comfortable, that worked, until that which was behind that mask became too fucking magnificent for the mask, which used to feel very comfortable and secure and safe, right? I'm here, this is what the world sees, and I'm protected back here, okay? The thing we've seen this week is that it seems as though we've had that mask ripped away, or maybe you've surrendered it, and maybe we'll get a new mask, but it seems like we're in a moment where we're being asked to exist and even do and think and feel and move about without the comfort and security of knowing exactly who we are. Maybe you do, but without knowing exactly how we're seen and without necessarily feeling the comfort that comes from a mask, which ultimately over time becomes a prison, right? It becomes a restraint as we're growing from beneath it. So for what it's worth, that's been happening. And we think it ties in the following way to the Virgo full moon, which happened on over the weekend on Friday, Saturday. It was the evening of like early morning 27th. So big and beautiful and full Friday night, but just as applicable to do full moon magic night after tonight, the 28th, even until tomorrow, the 29th. That's when we're actually going to do our ritual. We'll explain why. Solar plexus clearing has something to do with it, not just indigest. Virgo full moon casts a big, beautiful, bright, shining light on the structures and systems that support us. And specifically, the discerning, nitpicky energy of Virgo uses that light to shine, uses the full moon light to shine awareness and discernment onto that sort of main skeleton, and therefore to show us everything that's out of alignment with that skeleton. So there's a pattern that's emerging that the Virgo full moon casts a light on and sort of makes you see the pattern that's emerging. I'm thinking of zebra cats. It's going to be cohesive. It's going to be my thesis, right? Coherence, right? It's going to be cohesive. So the Virgo full moon shines a light on that which has come together, and then even specifically the dynamics of how all of those moving parts fit together. Why? Virgo has two reasons, right? Typically. One, just for the fuck of it, to feel the exquisite glory of efficiency when all the parts are moving in ideal efficiency. P.S. machines get rusty and they need to be adjusted. It's the Virgo function, and especially a Virgo full moon function, sort of puts the headlamp on and says, what needs to be adjusted? I can't look away because the light of the full moon is illuminating what's ready to be adjusted. But full moons also tend to have a lot of emotion. So you might even be feeling like, oh, what am I going to do to support the system that's emerging? Or I can't even look at fine-tuning another thing or refining another thing, because that side of Virgo can become very nitpicky and very harsh and very critical. But the beautiful side of Virgo is the side that's devotional and the side that's service-oriented, the side that's selfless, the side that does this nitpicking, streamlining, refining, identification of all the moving parts in the machinery, take a part out, put it back in, take a part out, put it back, take it, polish it, put it back in, refinement, never-ending motherfucking refinement, that Virgo rising. So when I talk shit about Virgos, it's never enough, right? And that could be a horrible thing if it's never enough, or it could be a marvelous thing where there's no such thing as a limit to how much you can love or serve or devote, right? And so this Virgo full moon asked us, really, what are you devoted to? Not just what do you care about, what do you feel a lot about, what are you devoted to? What do you serve? In its lowest function, what do you worship? What do you serve? What do you actively serve every day? And when you know what you serve, or not just what you care about, but what you are willing to serve, you can then look analytically at the structures that support you and that support your service and really ask some questions about, like, does any of this need to be adjusted? Does any of this need to be changed? What am I even doing? Okay, really, what am I even doing? And how can I do it more efficiently and with greater integrity? Virgo can lead us into perfectionism, but perfectionism can also lead us into glory, as long as it's not perfectionism and is actually compassionate, loving refinement. Oh, compassionate, loving refinement. You mean healing, right? This is why Virgo is the sign of healing, or one of the signs of healing. Okay. Let's see, what else? Good news is Venus is in Pisces as of February 25th, and it stays there until March 21st. Venus, planet of the senses. I think this is why Tiana's on the show this evening, because Venus, the planet of the senses, submerged in the ocean of collective experience and sensation. It's like Venus, the planet of manifestar, in the sign of no boundaries. No boundaries. So it's a beautiful tension. And what that means for you potentially, I wrote a couple notes here. The senses immersed in the spirit, embracing the all tangibly. I have this urge, this longing to embrace everyone. Well, fucking do it. Activism, volunteering, service, right? Commitment to service, learning a skill that you can share. Yeah, we said volunteering already, but okay. So yeah, embracing the all tangibly. How can I manifest practical ways of connecting with everyone? You know, that could also be a dope ass meditation, right? That you, or a journey that you're trying to learn from, right? Manifesting boundlessness. Okay. There's a tenderness to it. There's affection to it, but it can also become distant and self-obsessed because I'm so manifested in the space of boundarylessness that I could just stay here. And this is why it can also have something to do with like avoidance without necessarily knowing that you're avoiding, or also like drowning in something that seems to be real, but it's not. So just try to keep an awareness, especially like for the next month or so, really, that we want to use this as a strength. We want to use Venus in Pisces as an opportunity to manifest or create something tangible from a boundless source, or to connect with that boundless source in a very tangible way. Okay, so relationship there. Last thing I'll say, aside from Mars entering Gemini on the 3rd, I don't think we even really need to cover that. Just that Mercury is in Aquarius and finishing its retrograde moment. It ended on the 20th. We know that, been about a week. Another couple weeks before we're totally in the clear. It will be like over. We don't feel it anymore. March 15th. And then, I'm sorry, March 13th. And then it leaves Aquarius and enters Pisces on the 15th. So we just share that with you because look around the 15th of March to have a kind of awareness and understanding of what I'm talking about when we're talking about boundlessness, right? A clear understanding of the all, Mercury and Pisces. Whereas Mercury has been kind of just teaching us lessons and showing us what the Aquarian era is going to be about and all that. So Mercury retrograde has been kind of tedious for us over here. So we're excited for Mercury to go into Pisces. Look for things to get less like, what am I doing wrong? Or what am I doing right? Or what do I need to know? And just more about like an encountering of limitlessness. And what does that fucking mean? Round about the 15th. Yeah, perfect. Because the sun is already in Pisces. So we're already kind of getting this energy. All right. Rather than, I like to do the food part of our F Me update, but I'm running a little long and I want to bring tea into this room ASAP. So let me just actually share one little thing with you, which is regarding the culinary portion of the F Me update. That was dope. That was Thai stuff. We loved that, but we're not going to talk about that. Okay, so this was a killer Thai basil pesto. Raw garlic, salt, pepper, olive oil, whole bunch of basil, done with like an immersion blender. Really nice brown rice pasta. Loved it. And it just looked really sexy and pretty. So that was that. But this is what we really wanted to share with you. Is it here? Where is it? Hold on. Hey, where's the pandan? Babies. Oh, bummer. Okay. Did I lose it? Oh, I think I lost it. Oh, well. Well, it'll come back at the end of the show. I want to share it with you, just this little trick that we discovered regarding Pandan Extract, okay? So we'll come back. We'll finish that. That was our basil pesto. We also made this really dope thing called malawach that's like a bread from Yemen that's done by this very cool person on Instagram called Ben Jinji or something his name is. Young, awesome baker that I've been posting stuff about their amazing bread. But it was this really cool, like pita meets puff pastry thing, the malawach that we had. Let me see. Can I share it with you? Is it here? No, it's gone. All right. Well, we're going to move on. Love you all. Thank you. That was your FME update. Thanks for tuning in. And without further ado, let's welcome in our guest, Tiana Garoogian. And you guys, if you want a reading, zoom in. I see you there, but I don't see you in here. So come on in. All right. Love you. T. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us for the Edible Spirit Hour. Has anybody ever told you do things to their nervous system?
Not in these words, no.
Well, it's really something that I'm so excited to have you here today, because you and I encountered each other in very Aquarian era circumstances for the first time. And yet I've just always felt a deep trust with you and a deep connection with you, and this urge to share myself with you and share what you've taught me with others, and like really just continually pay it forward. But here's the full tea. It's like, this happens sometimes when we're doing readings with people where we encounter your being and your soul without necessarily knowing anything about you, what you've done, where you've come from, what's happened to you in your life, or how you think about the world, And yet, as I've known you and gotten to know you better, I'm left with this realization that, like, sometimes that's okay and even ideal to be able to step into a space with someone and be present and connect and share and exchange. And just these things entered into our life so quickly once I first met you that it just never occurred to me that I was learning while it was happening. So part of why I wanted to bring you onto the show today was to really dig into not just your practice and how you heal others, but also how you care for yourself, but also how you see the world and how these things kind of connect, So welcome. First question is, how are you healing? How are you feeling? What are you doing with that? Instead of paying attention to that, in support of that, in opposition to that, how are you feeling? How are you healing?
Thanks for that just giant opening. How am I feeling and healing? Every single moment in a new format, honestly. There's so much coming through. I've been honestly just keeping my body grounded, keeping my senses seduced, and seeking joy, surrendering to whatever it is that wants to come through. We're all healing all the time. There's no stopping it.
J'agree complètement. And again, it's like that question can have so many different answers to it, but it's beautiful because you just really shared what else is there to do but keep breathing, stay centered, be here, be present. So, but this also, we've had people on the show where we ask them this question and they're like, man, bitch of a fucking day. And so I had to gong my solar plexus and, smoke a cig and go to work, whatever it is. So I think there's something beautiful even just in what you're talking about here, which is, I know you have begun doing one-on-one sessions with people, but not that long ago, correct?
No, not that long ago.
So tell me a little bit about what you're doing, but especially kind of what called you to go from, wherever your practice came from to now offering your practice to others. So maybe tell me a little bit about that journey and specifically zeroing in on that moment where you were like, I think I have to share something, or I want to share something, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I've been doing some healing work, but more in a community setting for a minute. It's more like events where we can gather together. And I love to, entangle different healers and share and cross-pollinate. But in quarantine times, here we are exchanging over Zoom. And I found myself, it really all comes back down to being able to be in tune, listening for whatever's happening. I felt this huge cocoon phase, like, okay, I'm preparing for something, needs to be shifting. It sounds like there's a new role or a different way of being perhaps in the world. But it just felt like a big jumble and confusing mess. And I was chatting with my mentor about it. And we kind of teased out this question, which was, how can I create sustenance through purpose? And I was musing with this question for a minute. And then I did a medicine journey on the full moon of like last year, Halloween. And I went in with the intention of, what's my purpose? What's my path? Like, help me remember ancestors. Let's do this. And you actually helped me with that. Do you remember?
I'm remembering now.
It's so entangled, our becoming. Thank you.
Yes. Very, what is it? Is it mycelial, or would we say mycological, or becoming?
Yeah, symbiotic essences just swirling. Yeah, I went in with quite the invocation for that ceremony, and just was returned with quite a reckoning. The spaces, it wasn't a huge revelation, right? I have been working with music and movement and the senses and healing, meditation, these things from before, but it came through into my body in a way that was like, you wanted to know? Well, now you know what your thing is. Go ahead and face all of this new chapter of fear or questioning or wondering.
How marvelous. I want to acknowledge too that this is, for everybody watching, this is what happens when this is why, I mean, many reasons to do ceremony and do ritual, but the idea is that one of the ideas is you enter into a space of transformation that typically, if it's a ceremony, has a beginning, middle, and an end. And that if you go in, there's a point of liminality in the midst of it where you are no longer who you were, where you are not yet who you will be. And the magic of ceremony and working with dope ass ceremony leaders is that it's all about supporting an intention that you go in with, knowing that when you're done with ceremony, the intention will be asked, answered, echoed, manifested. Whatever you go in with will come back. And I feel like, I think that happens in life. It happens, in all sorts of things, but because our intentions are not always formalized, and there's not always a space for them to land, and there's not always someone with experience sitting with us inside of that space going, hey, I heard what you came in with. This is what's going on now. Let's see where it ends up. It's that process of change or transformation or whatever, just that feeling. If it's like, if you want something out of a ceremony, or if you want to know something, or if you want to understand something, be clear about it, come correct. And there's absolutely no reason to believe that when it's over, you didn't get what you asked for,
Yeah, definitely be careful what you're asking for.
So it was kind of deposited with you. And I think that's also, it's helping me to understand too, because we've worked together in certain contexts, but not yet really in a one-on-one session guided by you. But it makes sense where I always train students too to like not necessarily know what's going to happen when they're doing a reading. You shouldn't know what's going to happen. How can you show up and be prepared for whatever transpires within this sacred space to literally work with it, So between this download and this awareness of like, wow, I have all of these tools and paints and various things in my palette, what happened next? How did it then start to come together?
Well, I actually want to back up for a second, because there's a huge piece to this, which I think was key to where I am now, which, to be clear, I'm so thankful for this awareness and embodiment. But the key was really doing something that scared me, but also interested me. I was like, what might happen if this person sees me? And I really let all the way go, because I had a guide with me, which I also very much recommend. And I realized there were so many things waiting on the other side of fear. And I just feel so called to share the message for anyone out there who's like, I don't know why I'm drawn to do this thing, but I'm also frightened.
Someone said to me, I think it was a teacher, or it was through someone from a teacher, that if you're afraid, do some healing work, right? Do some inquiry, do some digging. If you're excited and very compelled, check yourself. But if you're terrified and compelled, go.
Yeah.
And then it's a great example, though, because I like to liken this to the heart chakra as being the space that has to open in order to be generous. And it's the center, in my practice, that's associated with trust and faith and kind of taking that leap, And so I just go back to what you said in the very beginning, too, that what you're doing is trying to stay grounded, and to me, grounded. Well, what does grounding mean to you?
To be grounded is to be present within the body, connected to the earth, present here, grounded.
Totally agreed. Body, earth, moment. Here I am here. And from here we go. And I'm sure people listening have heard this too, but just this idea that if you are not grounded, it's like the journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first step. But if you're not grounded, you've never taken the first step. You're already jumping to step 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And another great healer friend of mine said to me, grounding is not something that is arrived at. Grounding is something that is chosen and cultivated, right? Like, I'm not grounded. I'm not. Okay, well, fucking get grounded. Get in your body. Breathe, be present. Okay, cool. So yeah, I love that idea, though, that grounding is something that can help the fear and being compelled, because that can be so exciting and intoxicating that you don't necessarily realize that your wits are not about you, because your nervous system is going haywire.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then what?
Well, then the most important part comes is when you integrate, when you take a lot of walks and you take some more deep breaths and check in with your people, sit in silence. For me, I continued doing, I went in with the ancestors and I continued that communion practice, which is still very much alive with me today. And it continued to push me towards, okay, use your voice, speak to your gifts, speak to your experience. And I was like, but I prefer to cloak my gifts in art. I don't want to do one-on-one sessions, but I kept getting the message so strong. So, I sat with it and I painted pictures about it. And then I asked a bunch of friends to help me see myself. I asked them, what is my healing experience like for you? And created a website, and then it's been wild. The opening from there, these sessions that I've done, it's beyond meaningful.
I want to know more about the sessions. I just love how you're saying this, because I want to impress upon the listeners that this is so strange and wonderful but it's textbook to hear this calling, to inquire, to seek support, to seek mentorship, to seek reflection, to keep inquiring, to keep questioning, to keep breathing. Because we always say too that spiritual awakening and growth, that especially if it leads to doing session work, is a process of sensitization and stabilization, and sensitization and stabilization, and sensitization and stabilization. And that before you know it, you've built up some strength, not because you've muscled to do something, but because you've actually allowed yourself to breathe into it. So let me see. So in terms of, okay, so I have 2 questions. Which one will I ask first? Okay, so in terms of session work, just to give people a little bit of an idea of what a session would be like. And specifically, I don't think I'm wrong about this, Venus in Pisces. I don't know if you heard it in the opening of the show. I think the reason you're on the show tonight is because Venus is freshly in Pisces, the planet of the senses and tangibility, fully submerged in the field of the all. Total existence in the middle of total connection, right? Like total diffusion, no boundaries, right? We love this. So what is it like if I have all sorts of theories, but what is it like? Why would someone want to come work with you, especially in the capacity of an embodied meditation and because people can consume energy healing, and I'm sure you have a fascinating flavor of energy work, and I know your readings are fierce and your energy is fierce, but what is this experience like, and how could it potentially go for someone?
Yeah. Well, I do offer kind of an introductory call so we can check in with one another and see what's up, because I think a lot of times people have an idea of what they're looking for, and then you get together and you're like, I think actually it's a little less in this direction, a little more in this direction. So it's nice to just touch in. But
Nice.
My offerings do land in 3 spaces currently, which is the energy healing, energy work space, which is more experiential, a little guided depending on what's needed, and then the teaching for folks who are interested in meditation, embodiment. How does that connect to their spiritual practice? Whether or not it doesn't have to necessarily lean in a spiritual direction, but it's so hard to separate that from how I exist in the world. And then there's channeled reading. So if you want to check in with spirit, with your guides, and do some work that way, there's the whole Akashic realm.
So fantastic. So that's very specific. Thank you for the clarity. We love this. And so then my other question was going to be, I wanted to ask you something about the sacred, but I couldn't shake wanting to ask you something about the ancestors. I hope you saw, in your honor and in honor of your ancestors, we brought it in full, in space. That was very important. So, just for those watching, like when I encountered Tiana for the first time, they were working. I met them as an artist and as a visual artist and as a performing artist, but I projected movement as being key and essential. But then very quickly upon meeting you, I recognized that you were a curator and that you do have the ability to hold these impeccable, amazing spaces for people to come together and do something intentionally while getting done what you need to get done without stepping on anybody's toes, while still preserving the sanctity of people's experiences. But I just want you to speak a little bit more to the role of the ancestors, because knowing you, and even though we're across the country from one another, like, to me, when you started reconnecting with the ancestral lineages, it was very palpable and very exciting. So maybe you can share something about that process for you, and also maybe some of what you've gotten out of it, maybe to share with people, like, why would you go digging? Why dig into ancestral lineage?
Yeah. Well, if you feel drawn to it is why you should go into it, for one. It was a space that I was dabbling in for a second. Now that I look back, I've been on it for maybe the last couple of years. It's been coming in stronger and stronger, but last year I just kept having dreams and imagery and symbolism. I just kept hearing the word coming to me, ancestors, like, what is this ping? And I have a process or a practice of writing down, what are the things I'm drawn to right now? What are the words and the symbols, the pictures that I keep hearing? And that was one of them. I just kept pulling the thread, found some interesting teachers that spoke to it. And then, it really became technicolor in that ceremony setting of like, oh, this is what it feels like to be connected with the ancestral spirits, particularly the wise and well, that I've called in from my lineage, and to paint you a picture, it was like, and I don't feel as though before that ceremony I was living some completely like paper thin life where I had no grit or nuance to the spiritual experience, but it felt like I was a paper doll before going into that space, and then I became 3D, and my rooting into the earth was suddenly this like big tangible experience. And it was like I felt and still do feel the many hands that are supporting me all around me, and the gifts that I have feel bigger than myself, and the wounds that I have feel bigger than myself. And suddenly when you're like, ooh, there are people that came before me that were not, they were killed for who they were, their voices were silenced. And what does it mean for me to share that story and to use my voice and to speak to my experience? And it just helped me let go of a lot of fear, I suppose, or embrace it.
Well, two things I want to say here. One, just for everybody watching, what you spoke, the wise and well, right? As opposed to the lost, disenfranchised, and still frustrated in spirit. Because many beautiful things happen to our ancestors, many horrible things happen to our ancestors, and many things happened that were divinely unjust that have not been fucking corrected. Okay, so first thing was just this idea of, if you're calling on ancestors, I love the terminology to call on the wise and well. I've heard people say to those who have completed their work and are free from the cycles of karma or whatever, there are disclaimers that you can do to just make sure that you're not calling in Uncle Louie, who is still like angry and vibrating disconnected, addict frequencies, or identified with their trauma still in spirit, because that's the kind of thing that can lead to a discarnate entity, right, roaming the plains. And just because they're related to you doesn't mean you necessarily want all of their insight.
Yeah.
But then this connects to the other part of it, which happens in all sorts of traditions, just this idea of lineage and unbroken lineage too, that in Santeria, in Yoruba culture, and in Haiti, right, in voodoo, one of the theories is just that the ancestors, the line of ancestor to divinity is actually unbroken, that the divine kings of the Yoruba pantheon were kings that were related to their descendants that are still alive today, and that because they practiced something or embodied something or learned something or figured something out, the praise and honor of their ancestors lifted them up unto a divine or near divine state. And then over many years, the sort of personal associations with these various energies and entities fell away, and they became more and more and more and more archetypal. But I think there's something really powerful about doing ancestral work, because it breaks the sort of callous distance of a Judeo-Christian angry God looking down, who's your father, who's judging you, who's doing all these things, as opposed to all of these humans that were trying to live. And I love what you say, express themselves, express their truth, express their love, express their heart, express their soul. So for me, I felt tremendous power once I picked up on exactly what you're saying. What did my father, who died in 2017, not get to express? And how can I embody that? How can I complete whatever karma he wasn't able to complete? So I think it's powerful, and it's worth doing, everybody. It's very worth looking into if you feel called, because they're there and they can not only speak to you, they can literally infuse your aura with love and power and support and connection and closeness. Correct?
Yeah. I and also just look up epigenetics if you want some extra information as to like how crucial this work is and how much of our experience is connected with those who've come before in a lineage or in generations that we often don't have any information about, because a lot of us Pretty
It happens a lot in readings. I don't know if you've ever experienced this in readings where an ancestor that someone doesn't know will come through to kind of claim them in a way and say like, you're mine, or you're like me, or you're similar to me. And I usually there's some kind of link in that, you know, where they say like, oh, you know, oh, well, the people on this side of the family had that mean streak, you know, or they had, oh, she was the funny one, you know, or whatever it was, you know, that there's, I feel like there are even just some like less heavy duty ancestral DNA strands that are moving through us that like give someone a big mouth or, you know, frizzy hair, you know, but epigenetics, we'll look it up. I'm going to.
Yeah.
Beautiful, brilliant, amazing, awesome. Well, let's see. How shall we do this? I think we're going to bring in a couple of our guests because we have some beloveds waiting for calls and connections. So let's just check in and say hi to Karen. Okay, here comes Karen. Hi, Karen. Hi there.
Hey.
Welcome. Thanks for coming through.
Hi.
Hi. Do you have a question for us tonight, or would you like a reading, or how can we be of service? How can we spend this time together?
Probably just a reading.
Okay, cool. T, would you like to check in here? Anything you want to offer off the bat?
Oh, well,
If
Karen,
willing, if you want a moment, take a moment as well.
I'd love to check in with Karen and see, did you have, were you hoping to receive a reading from either one of us specifically?
It didn't really matter, honestly.
Oh, okay.
This is the tag team portion of our evening.
Okay. Shall we do it together?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is if you want to take a moment, I can jump in and then you can jump in, or if you want to dive in first, it's as you wish. We are here for you, Karen. Well, what I've been doing, let me dive in. I'll start first, see, because what I've been doing lately, Karen, is jumping in with if you were a snack, you'd be. I consult the Edible Spirit Collective to give us a flavor, a meal, a snack, a dish that is the medicine for you in this moment. So I would love to offer that for you, okay? Okay, very exciting. It's an opera cake, my darling. If you were a snack, you'd be an opera cake. Interestingly enough, it's an opera cake for one, which is complicated because it's not sliced into a multi-million pieces. It's not like you can get away with making a really big one and then cutting up into a bunch of pieces. And there's also this really interesting thing that I'm showing here, which is you piping the fillings into this opera cake. Opera cake has many beautiful little layers, right, of chocolate and ganache and crunchies and all these. So it's very decadent, but also it's an opera cake. So that says to me that there is something that wants to be expressed from you. There's something that wants to come out. There is a call to use your voice and actually seek your truth and sing that truth. But then the beautiful thing, and this is what I'm zeroing in on, I think this is why they're showing it to us, is like you have to kind of pipe the creme, the sweet, juicy fillings in between the lines of support, okay? So it's like there's a wafer on this side and a wafer on this side, and you got to put that filling right down the middle. So what this says to me is that you might have to keep what you're here to express, or this project, or this burst into the world, you might have to keep it kind of close to the vest, and in some ways like work on it in secret, in your own time and in your own space, as you seek the support that you may need in the world to kind of get this heard by the people who need to hear it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So enjoy making this gorgeous cake and know that you're gonna have to share it eventually, but don't be overwhelmed if it feels like, ugh, why can I only do this like once a week? I can pipe one layer of filling and then I gotta wait a week and then pipe another layer. It's like, don't bemoan that. Just take the time as it comes, work on the sly if you must, you know, but don't abandon the intention or the project or the hope of what you could express, okay?
Okay.
Anything to say, add, or offer here, T?
Just dissolving into your imagery of the opera cake, I would just add, Karen, if this is resonating with you, I'd be curious as to where you're feeling it in the body and if there's any emotion connected to it.
It's complicated. I've been working on changing a lot of things, and then I've been also working on making changes in my work area. And right now, it's not, that last part's not going so well. And I don't know, it's really complicated to explain in one moment.
Okay, but I think, Karen, T was asking specifically now as we're talking about this, do you feel any sensation in your body, or is your attention drawn anywhere? Does anywhere get tight or open or warm or cool?
My chest gets kind of tight.
Yeah. And if, I know you're saying it's really complicated and there's probably a lot of layers. Is there one feeling that you find is really connected with that space?
Hopeful. I think it's the one feeling.
And is that when you tune into the hopeful feeling, is it similar, like somatic in the chest, a little bit tight, or do you feel that different? Oh, really? It's really powerful.
Sometimes we forget that the heart is a muscle, and for it to grow, like any muscle, it has to tear a little bit and to hurt a little bit. And sometimes when our heart is sitting in a space of, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this, or how to bet on myself, or how to find the time to, or where it happens, or how it happens, right? It can make that experience, it almost feels more painful to hope than it does to give up on the hope. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I'm getting from the opera cake image too is this feeling of, so only break your heart open when you feel safe to do it, but please do it. Don't abandon it. See what I mean? And put whatever work or energy you can into shifting things bit by bit without forcing yourself to do too much too fast.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one last piece too, Karen, I'm curious, as you're thinking about the is there a feeling that you'd like to receive at the end of whatever space you're currently in?
Relief, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's like I can feel my heart getting opening just with your vulnerability of sharing what's up with you. Thank you so much, Karen. Let me just do a quick check in here.
One of the reasons why we do this show, Karen, is for when beautiful souls like yourself come in and share and open up some of these complexities. It has a tendency to simplify things for other people who are going through similar things. So totally agreed. Thank you for bringing your vulnerability here tonight.
Thank you.
You know, what's coming through is I don't know if you like taking baths, but anything that you can offer your body right now that can allow your muscles to just sink a little bit and take some breaths in. That's what's coming through. I actually don't feel a lot of constriction here. It's a desire to want to just rest back with hot water, warm water, and soothe in whatever way feels good for you.
Okay.
Mhm. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, just keep betting on yourself, but allow yourself to do it as you can, and really, I think just to tie back to what we were saying about the heart too, it's like if you give your body the chance to relax and release in that way, maybe the tension or the need for relief, right? Maybe the need for relief comes in a small dose, and then you're just that much more equipped to engage everything or be present with everything else that you're working on. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Karen. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you again.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Sweet. Delightful. So that was our little moment that we call 1-900-DELISH, where we have a caller call in. This would be the point wherein we offer a little snack to you. It's interesting. I wasn't intending on, but I got to give you this. Can I give you this little snack?
Yeah.
Okay. It's really cool. It's a medicine pouch that is this beautiful crushed purple velvet. Just very rich, very cosmic, very deep, very royal, very whatever you associate that kind of grapey purple, like the sky back here, right? Purple velvet bag. But then on the inside, they look like runts, but instead of runts, they're actual jewels, right? They're little jewels, and they're in your snack bag. But I've seen this with a few people when they're at the beginning of a long road in a great way, where it's this little bag of treats that are actually priceless gems that are with you on your journey, and that anytime you eat one, it has one of those like magical, Frodo, Lord of the Rings properties where you eat one and you're satisfied and you're full for hours when you're walking. Only the difference here, interesting, I never would have thought this, is just that it sort of reminds you of who you are, where you are, what you're doing, where you've come from. And it's like food from another planet that's in the form of these like jewel candies that you got to pop into your mouth to remind you. And I think, T, just to really cut to the quick of it here, it's like as you continue working with people and doing more and more sessions, there's this thing that can happen sometimes where you don't realize that you're up to the gills. And it's not always necessarily a matter of clearing the energy of people that you've been working with or things that have been happening. Sometimes it's even like a bigger existential experiential thing where you almost have to like a clubhouse moment where you have to like reset the room. You have to reset your existential room. This is who I am today. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. This is how it's going. But it's like, instead of those words that I just used, these little candies go in your mouth. Oh, they look kind of like pomegranate seeds. Imagine that. And they go in your mouth and it sort of sounds like, so there's something about a big bubbly activation as well as a kind of tranquilization that can occur. And I think the other message is just give this to yourself as needed. Learn to recognize the moments when you really need a very specific kind of reset or reminder, and don't be afraid to give yourself exactly what you need. But I don't think this is gonna be a problem. Offered in love and service from the collective. I just remembered, this just popped into my head, but a friend sent me a thing. There's an Instagram profile that's a clip, that's a series of people in the movies putting lotion on their bodies. So I'm going to send that to you. Just popped in. I'm open.
Where are we with time? Oh, we have 5 minutes. Well, would you like to receive, I'd
love that.
Or would you like, I'm curious actually. We could do a reading, we could do a little energy healing, we could do a little guidance. I don't know if you've
I would love to do some guidance because that's the thing that I'm the most fascinated in. I'll holler at you for a channeled reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Do you want
I would
the
love some guidance.
guidance?
Yeah, well, I would love a little guided moment.
Yeah, a channeled reading, or you want a meditation?
I want a meditation.
Okay. Is there an intention or a space that you're wanting to explore?
In a way, it's almost like a recognition of simplicity was the first thing that I wanted to say. But just in the case of this Venus and Pisces, right? It's like how to recognize enough when you encounter it, right? It's something I've been interested in. It's like so many of the things that I do or have done in my life come from, unfortunately, a reaction, a response to human need, which is great. I feel fine about that. But sometimes I put myself out there in ways that are out of integrity or out of alignment because I have a history and a tendency and a family lineage that sells and oversells and pushes and shares and overshares and smothers you with food and does all these, just wants to gag you with all this stuff. And I the work that I've been doing during this Mercury retrograde is not even sourcing that in my family lineage, but sourcing, because I know where it came from in my lineage, but sourcing the moments where I started forming beliefs around my value or the value of what I'm offering or putting out into the world. So what I've kind of been fascinated by is like, what is the thing that causes a person to devalue or undervalue some of the most priceless aspects of their being? So much of what I've learned from you is how to, like, I'm not bullshitting. Hearing your voice, connecting with you resets my nervous system. And it reminds me, your presence reminds me how to listen, right? But I need my presence to remind me how to listen and pay attention when the voice inside of me says, this is enough. You don't have to do more. You don't have to share more. You don't have to give more. This is enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. What if it's just always enough? Already.
Hi.
It's so hard. It's a constant practice. It's a constant.
Well, it is. And again, that's the thing. I mean, you can remember that on an inhale and forget it on an exhale. It's super, super easy. So I was just sharing that by way of that's what I've kind of been looking at and noticing this interesting thing that it's possible to be completely unconscious of something while you're staring right at it. So maybe you could give me something that supports me in yeah, no, you're right. Poison up. Well, how to recognize truth. How about that?
How to recognize truth in a meditation here.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's just take whatever wiggles your limbs want to offer and kind of give a quick hello to all the limbs, all the cells, all the toes. You can touch your cheeks if you want, top of the head, just like a quick down here. We'll take a couple deep breaths in together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1 more time in. Exhale. feels comfortable, we can keep our eyes closed here and just kind of sense into the ground there, checking in with gravity, feeling our bones connected to the earth. Allowing our body a moment just to be. Listening to the sound of your breath traveling in and out. Bringing your awareness to the skin on your left palm. And traveling up the arm, across the shoulders, down to your right palm. And just check in with your energy. Just check in where's your energy? How are you feeling? What's the temperature of the room where you are? Connecting with that root from the base of the spine deep into the earth, feeling the guidance from below and traveling up the spine slowly. Just allowing us to rest in the body. To the top of the head, relaxing any tension in the jaw. Check in with the roof of your mouth. And just noticing any sensations that live there. Scanning back down the head, through the body, through the legs, into the soles of your feet, as we come into full awareness of all the cells in your body. Relaxing the cheeks again. Letting your ears drop a little lower. And taking this next breath in from the lowest part of your belly and exhaling it out to the heart. Just letting our attention rest there in the heart. Noticing any sensations, images, or colors that might come. And we can ask the heart here, what is true about this moment?
I don't want to shift gears too dramatically because this space is delicious, but if there is any message from my guide, I would love, guides or from that's channeled, that's appropriate to come through at this point, I would love to receive it.
Yeah, let me drop back in here.
Thank you.
Let me check in with your space. I'm seeing a white, it's almost like a fish bone, the spine, and it's very thick and strong and aligned, and there's a ton of small bones on the sides, kind of like a Christmas tree, and it feels very realistic. And then there's what's the name of it? It's a cartoon fish that's yellow, and it's just swimming around here in the water. I'm just gonna check in again, see what else we have. It seems like the bones are really healthy, but it's the water around the bones is a little funky, like it needs a fresh little kind of clearing out. It's a little dark. I'm gonna check in here. It's kind of like a dark green, little pieces of debris here. Just gonna breathe through that. Now I'm just seeing a red rose, and your guides are just saying rest. Rest, 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 rest. It's very Disney movie.
Everything you said resonates and lands. It's such an exquisite way in that, you know, I saw a chiropractor about 4 weeks ago, and so have been very much focused on my spine. And prior to, you know, the retrograde of Mercury, was really focused on these questions of structural integrity. And as of even today, I've done some behind the scenes work that makes me feel like my spine is in delightful alignment, you know. And yet, my love, when I sit in these chairs, sometimes the ribs go that way and the neck goes that way. And I know I'm in alignment now. So actually it's like muscular synovial fluids that are just sort of, and it's funny because this ties completely to the original question that I was asking you, which was just about value, which is my karma and my stuff, you know. And if I'm opening myself up for something, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm feeling vulnerable around. And then we found that wonderful intention of the truth. And the moment you brought me into that heart space and literally just checked in with my space and my body, and you traveled the journey from the left hand to the right and down and up and around, as soon as I got into my heart, I was like, oh, this is what's true. Cool. And then there was also just this remembrance that truth is relative to, or our awareness of truth is relative to our perspective, is relative to what we can see and how much we can see of it. And even what you were describing about the ancestral work, when we were talking about our ancestors, you know, it requires someone with tools and perspective to see their lives and their stories, or even their untold stories, right, within the context of a larger truth, that maybe we don't know exactly what happened in the middle of their stories, but from the vantage point where we sit, this is true for now. And over time, there may come to be an even larger and more encompassing truth. So in that respect, it just reminds me that, like, I believe and have experienced that love is real, because love tends to be the thing that makes these bigger truths inclusive and part of the truth. So that happened while we were in there multidimensionally. And then also just this idea of fish too. I really see it as, like, for me, I saw like Flounder from The Little Mermaid was who I saw.
That's what it was. Yeah, I was trying to think. I was like, it's not Finding Nemo, but it's a yellow with the green, right?
Yep, with a little green clownfishy, kind of not clownfishy, but yeah, yellow and green, and oh guys, oh wow.
Kind of swimming around, just there, hanging out.
To me, I receive that really as both Pisces moment that we're in, and also kind of how to take advantage of this moment, and that maybe I did the work that I needed to do for structural integrity and alignment in my spine during the retrograde. And now I actually get to just enjoy these waters, get acclimated. I have a few steps I could take to make this life a little more like a Disney movie, but I intend to take them because I know that's what's going to make me able to keep working and serving and turning and fighting and loving and sharing and all of it. So felt very, very, very deeply received. And I'm glad I asked you to check in with the guides because, I think it's part of the other reason why we do this here too, is I love getting to have a healer like you on and give you a reading and share your practice. But exactly as we had with Karen too, it's like when people are vulnerable in a shared collective space, it's a learning process for everyone. So it felt really great tonight. Thank you so much for holding that space and supporting me in this moment, because that felt really good. And I definitely felt like, okay, I'm gonna let myself receive this now. So.
Yeah. And just briefly, it was like one exhale out. Suddenly there was a rose at the very end. I saw, it was like the spine, the rose, and then a mirror at the rose at the very end. And it was so, a single breath brings
Very deep, very meaningful, and
multiple.
Go ahead.
One last thing I just really would love to reflect to you.
Please.
It has been so incredibly healing and inspiring and affirming to know you. Your work is it supports the collective through and through and through and through. And the ways that you continue to weave just a jubilant spirit that is constantly interested and exploring curiously and connecting. You'll never not be doing it.
No, it's true. And I will say, like, you've really taught me a lot, both tonight, but in knowing you, about the sacredness of that process of moving through the world and experiencing the world the way you experience it, and not settling for this is the way it is, to really always have that inquisitive eye and mind and ear, and to say, is this me? Is this me, or who am I? Right? And how am I? And what am I? And what is even fucking going on? Like, that's the kind of thing that's exhausting, for some. But when it's about, when it's about the self, and when it's about the collective, and when it's about your own damn life, I think it's helpful to remember that we can. It's very scorpionic to me, just this idea of seeking out things that are in less than ideal alignment, or seeking out places where I could feel better. Like, sure, I feel good enough, but I might like to feel better. Or this feels wonderful, but it could be easier, or it could be different, or today's a new day, or whatever it is, and that process of encountering each moment must be respected, or can be respected, or can be treasured. And I come from a long line of people who demanded unspeakable things of their bodies with very little in return. Yeah. And so just to spend time with you has really taught me a lot about honoring the process of our existence. So I'm very, very grateful to have been able to share this time and space with you tonight. Let's talk yumminess. Okay. Is there anything on this earth plane that is currently making you feel transcendental and divine? Anything in form that is reminding you of the infinite and the formless?
There's been some beautiful music that has found its way to me through my beloveds. I try to seek it and I can't. And then my friends will send me a link to a song and it'll just completely unravel me.
Wow.
So being really in the sound world and moving to music has been wonderful.
It's is that something, now I know you love to work with light and sound and movement and all these different things in session. Is that something that could be worked into a channeled reading, or is that something that's worked into energy work, meditation, or all of the above?
It's what I mean, if a person comes to me and they say, these are the things that I'm interested in, can we integrate them? Yes, of course. It's a constant collaboration that we're creating together. Oftentimes honestly, the sessions blend together. Like when I was just doing a channeled reading for you, it was like, oh, breathe through, clear a little bit of this water out. It's kind of like, well, whatever comes through with consent, making sure everyone feels comfortable with what's happening. Yeah, it can definitely all be incorporated. And I love the sessions have been really palpable over Zoom. And I'm also excited to be back in the physical whenever it's available, because it's just the sensory experience.
It's true. It is pretty profound, though. I think one of my other friends who does somatic work, we were talking about it the other day, how in a way it makes you really treasure the work when you can't touch or smell or taste or feel the person physically in your presence. It's like you end up honoring the mechanics of the senses and the mechanics of the experience and the dynamics if you can't actually have them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's I think I've been kind of intuitively noticing that it's kind of nice for folks to be able to be in the comfort of their own space. It's like there's something there that allows them to kind of just let go even further, which has been it's been nice for me. I like to be in my pajamas while I'm
100%. And I think there's a timing element too, which is that not only you, but so many other healers have literally come online in the course of the last year.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason for it. And I think, there's so many people offering different sessions, but also at different rates and in different ways and for different reasons. And I would just imagine that, yeah, it would probably be a lot easier to get as vulnerable as one could get in the comfort of their space without having to go somewhere and do something in some sort of other space. That'll be really nice, because that's when you get to have the practitioner that you're working with holding that space and guiding you into those releases and into whatever the session sort of brings you. Oh, fun. That was a nice little ding. Okay, well, I'm going to take I'll share with you. So this is what I wanted to share with the room too, with everybody, that I found at this Thai store. It's Pandan Extract, and I got it in this liquid form, which I've tried, but then I really want to do this one because I think it has extra green food coloring in it. This one's like a paste, Pandan paste. And for anybody who doesn't know, it tastes almost like hazelnut. It's like a very nutty flavor, even though it comes from a grass. And I bought it because I want to make this Vietnamese cake that's made with all tapioca flour. It's called a Honeycomb Cake. And it looks like this lattice work of green, neon green cake. And it's totally gluten-free because it's all tapioca flour. And you got to use this. I have pandan leaves, but I wanted to mess with this extract. But I'd never made this cake before. So the other night, late at night, I wanted to make a late night snack, and I had some King Arthur gluten-free muffin mix, which is actually very resilient and delicious. All you have to do is leave it in the muffin cup for like 10 minutes after you make it, and let it raise a little bit, or let the baking powder act, and then you bake it. But so I made it with pandan extract, chocolate chips, and then toasted coconut sprinkled right on top of the cupcake. And it took me somewhere. We'll just put it that way. It was a cupcake that brought me somewhere else. I want to say it is it's not a mysterious flavor, but it's very unique and very not like any flavor that, like I said, the only thing is like hazelnut, but like hazelnut, a coffee flavor can sometimes taste really nasty. This is supposed to taste like pandan hazelnut, vibes. And but I'd never, I'm not used to it. It's not something from the palate of my youth or childhood. So it's something I've been very, very into this week. Okay, well, I think that's our show. Could stay here with you all night. Tell us, what's your website? Where can we find you? How can we connect?
Sure. Yeah. Tiana Garoogian across all platforms. So Twitter, Instagram. I have a website. You can learn more about my work that way. You can see some of my past artworks that way as well. And should I spell it?
No, because I will put it on the Edible Spirit page. It'll be on my Instagram links. It'll be at ediblespirit.com underneath the Edible Spirit Hour page. And and then I'll be posting, clips throughout the week too. So everybody will be able to find you. TianaGaroogian.com, at Tiana Garoogian, all across the platforms. Thank you so much for your presence here this evening.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everyone, for another episode. Next week, we will be back with you here on the Edible Spirit Hour, full of love, full of snacks, full of deliciousness. Until then, we bid you adieu.
The Edible Spirit.